Welcome back to Under the Dome with CD right here on Acadiana Sports Station 1037 The Game and 1037thegame.com. Hopefully you have a great Saturday afternoon. Coming to you live, as always, from the First South Farm Credit Studios. And right now we're going to get on the 1037 The Game hotline. Right now, our guy, Ian Castle, we're going to get in some MLB talk. Ian, how you been, man?
Hey, I've been great. Clint, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just a little bit more frustrated than anything about what's going on with the state of the MLB right now, with the unwritten rules of baseball. All started, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, what's going on with the unwritten rules of baseball, namely everybody's favorite curmudgeon old school coach in Tony La Russa. What's your reaction to that when you heard him kind of complain about Yerman Mercedes and his hitting of a 3-0 like lollipop and sending it out almost to like some other ballpark out there?
You know, I wish I could say I was surprised that Tony La Russa was being curmudgeonly and sticking up for the unwritten rules and the right way to play the game. I think what's most disappointing is that he's not sticking up for his own player in that situation. Kind of like we saw last year with Jace Tingler and Fernando Tatis Jr. You know, stick up for your player, support your team, read your clubhouse. Even if you didn't approve of what Yerman Mercedes did, I mean, I just think the situation where, you know, it was a blowout game, the Twins had a position player in Williams' studio on the mound. It was a situation. You're not supposed to swing 3-0, but I mean, the pitch was teed up for him. I still think your instinct is to swing. You see a big fat meatball that you can hit out of the park,
yes.
And Mercedes went and did it. I mean, that's just instinct, and I don't think that ruins the game or anything like that for a guy to hit a pitch that he can hit. And if you're supposed to stop playing when it's a blowout game, then, you know, Major League Baseball needs to get together and decide that there needs to be a mercy rule, because
right.
Don't stop playing. I know everybody wants to go home or whatever when it's a blowout, but you can't tell these guys to stop playing.
Exactly. That's the thing. You can't just go ahead and, like, especially, you know, I think it's also, like, let's be honest. Isn't it time for the MLB just to kind of step in and say, hey, like, it's cute and all the position player pitching stuff, but at least, you know, keep it down to a bare minimum, because it's like, why are you going to save your guys and save your other arms whenever game's out of hand and just go ahead and throw in position player pitching just so you can get people to talk about it on Twitter?
Yeah, I don't think, you know, Aaron Boone was outspoken the other day, at least raising the issue of a mercy rule. I don't think we're ever going to see it, because
I
it
agree.
just maybe seems a little too little league. But I think that there does have to be some consideration, you know, then don't put in a position player. You're worried about saving your pitching staff. But, again, I mean, I think you could argue. Sometimes it's fun. You know, you see Anthony Rizzo strike out Freddie Freeman, and everybody has a big laugh about it. But you're raising the white flag, and it kind of makes a mockery of the game. So if you're going to do that, I mean, you don't see like the NBA in like a 40-point game.
Yeah.
Assistant coaches suddenly starting
that'd be fun,
going out
actually.
there at guard and playing. What other sport does this sort of thing?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous that we see this stuff happen. I think it's time, like, unless you like had some experience in the past and, you know, beyond the high school level, I'll say, then you can say, hey, like, you'll have a designated position player that can come out there in like a garbage time type situation. I think that's what the MLB needs to do with this situation going forward, because it's been bugging me like for a while, and I think this kind of exacerbated it. And then you have Tony La Russa saying, you know, he didn't respect the signs and he didn't follow the unwritten rules. He never said it in that term, but it's pretty much implied that, oh, hey, you know, if you don't play by these rules, you're gonna get some blowback, and getting blowback from within your own team was probably the most frustrating thing of it all.
Yeah, I could see La Russa being mad if Mercedes was given the sign to take and he swung away anyway. You know, maybe you can make an argument there's a little bit of insubordination and respect authority and so forth. But I just think this unwritten rules stuff, it doesn't do anything for the game. It gets us arguing about it, but it's discussing baseball for all the wrong reasons, rather than, Shohei Ohtani, for instance, the Angels slugger and pitcher, is having an outstanding season. He's got leads Major League Baseball with 14 home runs. He's got a 2.37 ERA as a pitcher. I mean, a guy dominating the game as a hitter and a pitcher. We should be talking about him every day. Instead, we're talking about this garbage. Tony La Russa sitting on his porch, shaking his fist. I mean, I think in some ways people were ready for something like this with La Russa because it was just such a bizarre circumstance for the White Sox to hire him. And there was, I think baseball people and the media were just waiting for the first opportunity for La Russa to look like an old man who's out of touch. And La Russa obliged by doing this. And I think, we're all running with that storyline.
Exactly. Talk around Ian Castleberry, part of Awful Announcing right now on 103.7 The Game. And, we were talking about the Chicago White Sox. They've pretty much been leaders in the clubhouse from day one in the AL Central, and everybody's kind of pegging them as number one in their latest rankings. I saw MLB.com, the Four Letter Network. A lot of other people have put the Chicago White Sox firmly at top. Are they the real deal, or is this too early to be like Denny Green and crown them?
I think they are the real deal. I mean, going into the season, they looked like they had an outstanding pitching staff, and we've seen the likes of Lucas Giolito and Carlos Rodon, who had a no-hitter this year, Dylan Cease, Lance Lynn's having a great season. So they have an outstanding starting rotation. They signed the best closer available in free agency in Liam Hendricks. They have Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, the reigning MVP, and even with some injuries like Luis Robert, losing him. But I think the White Sox certainly are for real. I don't think this is just an early surge, but they are certainly helped by, I think, one of the biggest surprises so far of this MLB season, how bad the Minnesota Twins are. I picked the Twins to win the AL Central. I thought they had a little bit more pitching than the White Sox, but the Twins have been abysmal. They're 16-28. They're even behind the Tigers in the AL Central. Just how bad this team has been is a shocker. And I think if we continue to see that, if the Twins can't compete with the White Sox, they're going to run away with the division. I know the Indians are right there, and they do have some outstanding starting pitching, but ultimately I think their offense falls short. And this will probably be the biggest division margin. The White Sox will win by the most of the three divisions in the American League.
I'd agree with you. I think when it comes right down to it, the Minnesota Twins have underwhelmed. I think that's a big reason why we're seeing the Chicago White Sox be at the top of that division. But you brought up something else I want to kind of get to, the no-hitter. We are in May 22nd of 2021, and last I checked, we have 6 official no-hitters, keyword official no-hitters, tied for the most of all time. Mind you, we'll get to the 7-inning no-hitter in a minute, but do you think the no-hitter is good for baseball right now?
It's not good in how frequently it's happening. I mean, this is still a special, singular achievement in baseball. It's other than the perfect game, of course. It's the best a pitcher can do in an individual performance on the mound. But it seems less special when you have one a week or you have one on consecutive nights like you did this past week. And it also feeds into the notion of offense being down in baseball. There's so many strikeouts now. The ball's not put in play. Guys aren't hitting for a high average anymore, and it's made baseball pretty boring to watch at times because you do get, what they call those 3 true outcomes. You get a home run, a walk, or a strikeout, and that's not good for baseball. I think what's also a little bit of a concern is as you look at the pitchers who have thrown no-hitters this year, I mean, we're not seeing guys like Trevor Bauer and Clayton Kershaw, the guys that you typically associate as dominant pitchers, the likes of Wade Miley, Spencer Turnbull for the Tigers, who's having a good season, but I don't think anybody would call him a dominant starter. You have guys who are pitch to contact and get guys to miss, don't necessarily blow them away, which I think speaks to how much of a problem hitters have putting the ball into play. There's so much emphasis now on launch angle and exit velocity and lifting the ball. Rather, you don't just see a guy content to hit a ball really hard into the gap for a double anymore. It is a concern, but I think it feeds into a bigger story in Major League Baseball.
I think it's perfectly fine. I think the fact you're getting it a lot, it actually it's the fact that I think baseball maybe overcorrected itself, because we heard about it a lot, especially from Justin Verlander, talking about how the baseballs were a little bit juiced, if you will, the last few years. Now we're seeing it be a little bit less so, and we're seeing the pitchers take over the contest, and we're seeing a lot more of these no-nos. Haven't seen a perfect game yet, but we've gotten there. But do you think the 7-inning no-hitter should be counted? Because I felt like that one should have been 100% counted towards the record books.
I changed my mind on this one. At first, I did not think it should be counted, because how many guys take a no-hitter into the 8th inning and they lose it in the 8th inning, or they lose it in the 9th? Getting 21 outs as opposed to 27, that's a big difference. However, if the rules of the game state that a doubleheader game is played 7 innings, and a pitcher pitches those 7 innings and doesn't allow a hit, unless the game went to extra innings, Madison Bumgarner pitched the minimum amount of innings he was allowed to pitch. You can't, if he's only supposed to pitch 7 innings and he doesn't allow a hit, then it should be considered a no-hitter. Go ahead and put an asterisk next to it if you need to, and point out the fact that, he only pitched 7 innings as opposed to 9 innings for most Major League no-hitters. But I do think that should be counted, and I'm glad that you and many others point out the fact that it's been 6 no-hitters, but it's 7.
Exactly. I think it should be counted because of the fact you're playing in the construct of the game the way it is now, where you're saying, hey, you got to play these 7-inning doubleheaders, be it due to COVID or due to weather change, calling off another game. So why not count that? If it's a game that gets called off in the 7th, then it's a no-no, and it was supposed to be a full 9-inning game. Obviously, that won't count towards the record because that game would have been called off due to something else out of your control. But if it's a 7-inning doubleheader, I think that's where the debate goes into play.
Yeah, if those are the rules that are established, that Major League Baseball says you play 7 innings in a game that's in a doubleheader, then that is pitching, or that is playing to the rules of the game, and that's exactly what Madison Bumgarner did.
Talking now, Ian Castleberry. Let's flip on over to the Houston Astros for a minute, because they've been looking pretty darn good as of late. Last 10 games, they've won 8 of the last 10, and they've won 5 straight series, including the most recent series against the Oakland A's. They lost the first game against the Texas Rangers last night, but you got to think that this team is maybe exceeding expectations. A lot of it has to do with the fact of their offense being way ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, before the season, had we had a chance to talk about it, I did pick the Oakland Athletics to win the AL West because I thought maybe they just had a slight advantage in starting pitching, but acknowledging that the Astros had a far superior lineup, and it was going to be a very close race because of that. And we're seeing, the Astros are hitting the ball really well. Yuli Gurriel has really come on. Jose Altuve has shaken off what looked like an early season slump. Kyle Tucker has been outstanding to the point where, it's no surprise that the Astros let George Springer go in free agency. And I think for the Astros to be playing this well, when they've had starting pitching injuries, obviously Justin Verlander out, but we've also seen Jose Urquidy, Jake Odorizzi suffer from injuries as well. I think you have to be scared if you're the Oakland Athletics and think, wow, the Astros can definitely improve. And you wonder if Oakland, not to say that they've plateaued, but can they play much better than they have been, where I think as you look at the Houston Astros, especially from a pitching standpoint, I think there is definitely room for improvement. And they're already outstanding. I mean, 242 runs scored. That's second in Major League Baseball. They've allowed 178 runs, which is 4th in the American League. A plus 64 run differential. That's the 3rd best in Major League Baseball. So even though they're a half game behind the Athletics right now, I mean, that's what almost a virtual tie. I think you have plenty of reason to be optimistic if you're an Astros fan. Not only that for them to win the AL West and dominate, but as we talked about with the AL Central being so weak, the Astros are going to make the postseason, whether it's as a division champion or a wild card, because I think only one team's going to come out of the Central, maybe two teams out of the American League East. So to me, the path just looks wide open for the Astros here.
We brought up the Oakland A's. All right, with 30 seconds, do you think the Oakland A's move to Vegas?
Yes, I do. I think that there have been so many problems with Oakland, with that Bay Area. I think the Giants, will prevent a move to San Jose or Santa Clara or something like that. Las Vegas isn't a great market for Major League Baseball in terms of TV or whatnot, but I think to move to some place that is really excited to have Major League Baseball, I think, and Las Vegas looks like the heavy favorite right now.
Ian, thank you so much for coming on, my man. We'll talk to you down the road, and enjoy the weekend.
Hey, looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me on, Clint.
All right, Ian, take it easy. That was Ian Castleberry. You can follow him on Twitter at Ian Cast if you want to get the latest on baseball and also a bunch of nerd stuff as well. Appreciate him coming on the program. Back